In this module, we will learn the inputs, tools and techniques, and outputs of the Develop Project Charter process. The number 4.1 refers to the fact that this process is defined in Chapter 4 of the PMBOK Guide, and it is the first process defined within that chapter. Don't get hung up too much on the numbers, as they do not imply any order to the way the processes are performed and are meaningless on the exam. The purpose is to help cross-reference between this course and the PMBOK Guide. Also, remember that the color blue represents that this is an initiating process. Develop Project Charter is a process for the project sponsor or champion to document the formal authorization of a project, name and authorize the project manager, and provide high-level descriptions of the project needs, initial requirements, and expected outcomes. The key output of the process is a project charter, which will likely be a fairly brief document. Since the project charter is a relatively simple document, it is important to understand its purpose and how it differs from the many other project documents. There are two key inputs to the Develop Project Charter process. Remember that inputs can be thought of as things that may be needed in order to perform a process. This does not mean that all will be present for every project, but rather that some or all could be used in order to perform the process. Project management business documents include the business case and benefits management plan. While the sponsor or program manager should develop and maintain these documents, the project manager is responsible for ensuring their alignment with the project management plan and charter. The business case is documentation detailing the project as it fits into the performing organization's strategic goals and why it was chosen. Typically, the business case will be economically focused and should list the objectives and reasons for project initiation based on a needs assessment. Major components may include business needs, analysis of environment, options or alternatives, recommendations, and measurement approach. The benefits management plan describes how and when project business value will be realized, measured, and transitioned to the organization's ongoing operations. Major components may include target benefits, strategic alignment, time frame for realizing benefits, benefits owners, metrics, assumptions, and risks. When authorizing a new project, it is important to have an understanding of what the project is intended to produce. The customer, internal or external, will define the desired deliverables, which may be formalized in a contract or other form of agreement. An agreement represents a formal and often legally binding documentation that represents the exchange of a good or service for compensation between two organizations. This can be in the form of a contract, service level agreement, or memorandum of understanding. Two other inputs to the Develop Project Charter process include enterprise environmental factors and organizational process assets. Enterprise environmental factors include elements in the project environment that are subject to change and could influence the purpose or business case of the project. This may include market demand, company culture, standards, or regulations. Organizational process assets include elements within the performing organization that can contribute to completing a process. For example, some organizations may have a template for a project charter that helps to standardize the way it is developed for all projects. A common tool and technique, expert judgment, represents the subject matter expertise that a project sponsor, customer, and project manager may utilize to help document the project charter. There are several other tools and techniques that could be used in this process, and will be seen in many other processes we will explore. Data gathering includes many ways to better understand the uniqueness of the project environment, such as brainstorming, focus groups, and interviews. The project management team will need to leverage interpersonal and leadership skills, such as managing team member conflict or disagreements, facilitation, and efficient meeting management. The key output of this process is the project charter itself. The project charter is a project document that at a bare minimum should formally authorize the project and name an individual to be the project manager. It will be signed by the project sponsor. Since managing a project is very challenging without formal authorization, this is a very important document in the project management body of knowledge. In fact, it can almost be assumed that a project is not a project without a signed project charter. Some additional elements that could be found in a project charter include high-level stakeholder requirements, measurable project objectives to include schedule milestones or budget expectations, project success criteria, assumptions and constraints, or high-level risks. The project charter will be utilized as an input to several other processes from the initiating, planning, and closing process groups. The assumption log is a document of high-level strategic assumptions about the project found in the charter and will be used to track more tactical assumptions and constraints about the project throughout the project lifecycle. Project managers that are used to managing projects that are based on contracts with external customers can easily confuse the purpose of a contract or agreement and the project charter. While the agreement is an input to the initiation of a project, the term contract is rarely referenced again in the PMBOK guide, which separates project management from contract management. The purpose of an agreement is to formalize terms and conditions between two organizations, usually a customer and a provider. In contrast, the project charter is intended to represent the formal authorization and assignment of a project manager by the sponsor. To help remember this, consider that a single contract could result in one or multiple projects. Similarly, two contracts could result in one project. To summarize, the purpose of this process is to develop the key output, the project charter, which will authorize the project and name and authorize the project manager. While the document may provide some descriptions about the project, all information in the charter will be at a high level rather than detailed. To help develop the project charter, it is useful to have a project statement of work or customer agreement to better understand the deliverables that the project is intended to produce, as well as a business case to help provide an understanding of why the project is being performed and why it was chosen. On the exam, it will be important to differentiate the project charter from other project documents, knowing what it does and does not do. Further, if you ever find yourself in a scenario where the project charter is not signed or up to date, this should be completed before you can perform any other project management process.